Hello, everybody. I'm Nick. I'm going to moderate this session. It kind of came around because everyone seems to be talking about data and creativity at the moment, and we thought it'd be interesting to get people with pretty different skill sets and get them on a stage and have a discussion about whether it's working or whether it's not working. I personally have this kind of feeling this year that over the last 3 years, certainly the delivery of media, we've seen a complete revolution in the way that we do it. And if I look at the way that our agency was structured and the skill sets that people were delivering 3 years ago, it's very different from I think, the way that we work today. You take a market like the UK at the moment, you've got about 50% of the UK market's now digital. Of digital display, 59% is programmatic. And of the programmatic, about 50% is mobile. So we live in a really, really different environment from the one that we were in 3 years ago. So we've had a revolution in media. I think my view is that I don't necessarily think that I've seen that reflected in the way that we are developing creatively. And so I guess the question that I'm kind of looking to answer is, are we seeing evolution in creativity? Are we going to see a revolution in creativity? Is data helping creativity? Where are we? Is there a problem? Is there not a problem? And if there is a problem, what can we do about it? So
just that.
All right.
that is it. Is that the end? Should we finish?
All right.
So I've got Dimitri, Seth, and Suzanne here, obviously. I'm going to start talking to Dimitri. So Dimitri, you are the, Ogilvy 1 and Ogilvy AMP.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And you've written a book called Sexy Little Numbers.
I did a while ago.
A while ago.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is could you tell us a little bit about Sexy Little Numbers, what you thought then, and perhaps how your perspective has changed to now?
Okay, sure. So it's been a while since I plugged my book because I wrote it in 2010, and a lot has changed in the world of technology and data in the last 6 years. But the reason why I wrote it was because I wanted to write a book for non-technical people to get them familiar with data, to demystify data, to make it less threatening. And to really focus on how data it should be applied, rather than focus on the data and on the technology. And my fear back then was that the whole world of data and marketing was becoming a technology discussion. And that fear actually hasn't gone away. I still think, if you walk around here, there's a lot of technology here, and the focus is very much on the tools and the software. And it reminds me a little bit of the days of CRM in the 90s, where it became a software conversation, and the customer experience didn't necessarily become a lot better because of that. So if there's one thing to take away from that book that still applies today, is you should start with how you use the data, start with the application, start with how the types of questions it can help you answer, and then let that inform you technology discussions.
Yeah. Do you feel positive about what you see now?
I do, but I had higher expectations actually when it comes to data, especially as it has the potential to inspire creative ideas. I think that's where we've really fallen short. If I'm honest, like 6 years ago, I would have thought we would have been a lot further down the path on that one.
Okay, cool, thank you. So Seth, I'm going to go to you because you are a creative data leader. You're a technologically creative leader? I don't know.
I'm a lot of things.
Basically, you're kind of as good as it gets, I guess, when it comes
You'll tell me in like 25 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I'm also delighted that I see that you have a background in theatre.
I do.
So we might get you to dance the answer to this question. So you work loads with different types of agencies and also with clients. So I guess my first question is how have you seen the appetite for the type of work that you're doing change over the last few years? How do you feel about that? Do you think we're in a good place? Are we getting to a better place? What?
So I definitely, I think the appetite has changed. I think I've seen a lot of the digital transformation that both at clients and agencies. And I think there is more of an appetite for real digital transformation and innovation. But I guess what I would say is not enough. And I think all of us up here, the reason we're up here is because we are all trying to continue that acceleration. right?
Yeah.
So that's a big theme for us at Google and YouTube, how we accelerate technology and innovation, how we empower brands and agencies to accelerate innovation, and how we deliver much more meaningful experiences to users. I think that a lot of marketers are still stuck in a world that of thinking of in an online-offline paradigm, which is totally antiquated, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's very useful, right? Like, I'm not sitting in front of a computer, but there's a mobile phone in my pocket, so I'm online, right? So what does it mean to be online or offline? I don't think it really means anything.
Yeah.
And I think once we start letting go of some of those things and just embracing users, not audiences, not consumers, connect the data to the humanity is when we can see, I think, Dimitri, to your point, that like we can go further with the data to think through even bigger, more interesting, more meaningful technology-driven experiences.
And what's stopping that now?
I think, frankly, like, I don't know if clients are demanding it of agencies. I don't know if all agencies are set up to do it. And I think somewhere in the middle there is where we're seeing a lot of shifts and a lot of movement. And I think that's where you see the most successful brands and agencies, and the ones that, we're trying, again, to really fuel that shift.
Okay. So let's go to Suzanne, the client.
It's all my fault. Okay.
Not your fault, obviously.
Maybe a little.
So Suzanne, you're a client who markets content, and that means that you have loads of access to different types of data to inform your marketing activities. So do you have a challenge in differentiating between what's useful and what's not, in understanding what's going to deliver you positive business outcomes and what's just noise? And if so, how are you learning to tell the difference and apply that?
It's a lot of questions.
It is.
The net is yes, we have a true challenge about what has meaning as opposed to what's interesting to know. I think that's part of the issues we're having with data, and we love all the data we can get. It's a sea that we can't really untangle. What is meaningful, what is someone interacting with a piece of content saying that they're going to go to the movie, or at least aware of the movie, as opposed to they interacted with a piece of content and they said, got it, that's enough. I don't need to see that movie, I've seen what I need to see. And so that is a big challenge for us. We are not in a space where we're sort of divided up linear versus digital in terms of how we look at media. For the folks who sell video in a digital space, we have probably tripled our budgets into digital and significantly increased it into video. And now we're trying to sort out which pieces matter and which pieces don't. And another challenge is our target audiences, because we still talk that way for now, are young, and they are actively trying to avoid advertising.
Yeah.
And although we may be content, we're also advertising. We want them to go spend some money.
Let's talk a bit more about that, because what we've talked there is about kind of, measuring stuff that's happened and then trying to use it to predict what's going to happen in the future. And I see, I guess at the moment, there's a kind of question which is around, are we using data really as the tombstone at the end of a campaign? And how are we taking data, repurpose it, and using it for insight, Dimitri?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with that. That's the biggest frustration I've had. I mean, I think we've gone a long way on the back end, and which is important, right? On measurement, on optimization. But in a way, we've been using all of our science and all of our technology to tackle the easy problem, and the very tactical problems. And again, they're important, but they're very tactical. Like, where do I put my message? Who do I target? When do I target them? But it has stayed at that level. And I think the data and the insights need to sort of come out of the bowels and make them, and bubble up a little bit into more strategic insights, and that hasn't happened. Not only on the creative side, so I think data insights that really inspire great creative ideas I hear the stories. I think half of them are post-rationalized, and half of them aren't even true. They're very, very, very scarce, and I would have expected there to be a lot more examples. But it's not just in creativity. I think it's in business in general. Even if you think about very important strategic decisions that are being made in boardrooms all around the world, things like how much should I spend on marketing, for example. I mean, you'd be surprised how many CMOs still use advertising to sales ratios as the method for setting the marketing budget. I mean, econometric modeling and statistics has been around since the 50s, and still that technique hasn't even made it to the boardroom. So I think that's been the real challenge, not just for creativity, but for business in general.
Whose fault is it?
I think it's a number of things. I think that first of all, the focus has been on the easy problems because that was a low-hanging fruit, and there was a lot of money to be made there by optimizing, media budgets at a very granular level. So that's one piece. The other piece is, I think, data literacy of, on the creative side, creatives, and then more in business of marketers in general. It hasn't historically been very high. People don't go into this business because they love math. And because of that, there's sometimes a suspicion about the math, and then people just fall back on the methods they've been using for a very long time.
So how do we solve it?
I think it's starting to change a little bit. So there's a lot of talk now around programmatic creative, which I frankly still think it's still at a very tactical level. It's still not really cracking the bigger problem. But I think we're gradually technology-wise moving out of that space. And I think you're also going to see a new generation of creatives. I'm definitely seeing it at Ogilvy, a new generation of creatives who are data hungry and who do like it. It's not just creatives; it's also planners. I think the role of the planner, you'll be pleased to hear that, is incredibly important. I think in this transformation. So I think we'll get there. But I just thought we were going to be further along than we are now.
You said an interesting thing to me a day ago, and you talked about the wrong sort of data.
Right.
Could you elaborate a bit more on what you mean by that?
Right. I mean, I also think I don't think that if you look at all the data that is being used now in programmatic advertising, I'm not sure whether that's the ideal data for driving inspiration. I think data sources like search, for example, are a lot more interesting. Social data is a lot more interesting, and we're getting better at manipulating that data. But I think some sources are a lot better than others.
Okay, so let's kind of take that more into the kind of creative sphere, and away from the kind of planning, kind of pre-campaign work. So I'm really interested in digital storytelling. And how it's working and where it could be and where we could get to with it and how programmatic might play into that. So Seth, could you tell us your view on where you think it is, where you think it's going, what do you think is interesting?
Yeah, I think this is very related to your line of questioning to Dimitri, is that I'll start by saying something I once heard a really smart Google engineer say, which is predicting the future is really hard. I thought that was pretty insightful, actually, considering these are people who actually try to do that for a living and have a right to talk about those things. But it is, and I think that programmatic creative is this really weird oxymoronic term. I mean, I think programmatic has a big role in our industry to play, but I think we do ourselves. No matter where you sit in this business, I think we do ourselves a disservice if we think that the computers are going to figure it all out. Because there's only Suzanne, you talked about sort of being awash in the sea of data.
Yes.
Understanding that data is still a fundamentally human activity. And so I think we have to continue to embrace that. And the other piece is remember that brands are not commodities. Good brands are not commodities. They're ethereal and they're ideas. And that our choices as consumers, as users, are driven not always, and frankly not usually, rationally.
Yeah.
We are irrational creatures of passion and emotion. And if we think about ourselves and the decisions we make with our money, we tend to make those decisions based on how we feel. The biggest purchases people make in their lives, homes, cars, are the least rational. right? Like I spent some time at Google working in the automotive business, and you could ask someone what vehicle they drive, and they could tell you it's this, and I could name 5 cars, especially in a market like the US, which is very saturated with nameplates of vehicles of choice, that have the exact, almost identical specifications, have all of the same sort of statistics. The data looks identical.
Yeah.
But what you choose is because of how it makes you feel. Because you want to associate yourself either with like the feel of how the car drives, or let's be honest, how you look when you pull up in it.
Well, definitely.
And that's not just because I'm vain. Also true. But I think it is true that so that's true of us as users, and I think it's true of us as storytellers, right? Storytelling is not just about the last touch point to a user that drives an action that you can measure.
Right.
What we would do ourselves a disservice to disregard the emotional relationships we have with brands, and where the team I sit on at Google sits, and what we're trying to do is give even more meaningful insight and use our technology platforms to make those connections in more meaningful ways to users. And so, by that I mean giving them real value. Because the last thing I'll say on this is Suzanne, you said like people are trying to avoid advertising all the time. Yeah. Right. They're trying to avoid advertising about stuff they don't care about.
Yeah.
But when it's stuff they do care about, they don't care if it's from a brand or if it's from a creator. They don't care about the source if it's something they care about. So this, maybe to oversimplify this, the data should be helping us understand what people care about, and then what good and effective brands are doing is talking to those users about the stuff they care about. And then as users, we embrace that, right? It's the brands that get in the way of the stuff we care about that we want to avoid, and we literally try to skip. We skip the television programming, or we just disregard, or even more dangerously, tell people how much we think it sucks.
That's always fun. That happens on every Friday night or Saturday morning that a movie opens. Literally, that is, you watch as people, hopefully it's not your movie, are saying how much they hated it and why it's terrible, and those are very loud voices, even if there are just a few of them. Mm-hmm. I think, you just described my 24/7 problem, basically, because we're not selling a product. I don't have a BMW that I'm putting on the road every day that, cars people are buying. I am selling an opportunity to experience a story. And if you can't actually get to a place where you believe you want to give up your hard-earned cash and time, and in some cases a lot of money because you have a babysitter and all of that, to go to a story that may be awesome but may disappoint you, that is a huge challenge for us. And all of our stories are also different. So I have taken to calling it the snowflake challenge, because every single one of our products, 20 or so a year, are a snowflake. And they're different in so very many ways. So what is predictive about what you see in terms of any interaction on one film is likely not an opportunity for a future film. So which is why a lot of times what we're looking at with data is the opportunity that comes from search and social, because you're trying to either monitor the conversation or monitor the hand raisers that are saying, I'm interested in that, as opposed to what's pushed to them, and then hope that you can continue to close the deal without losing them to a degree that allows you to get enough people to buy tickets and make money. Because that is, in the end, as we talk about boardrooms, I work for stockholders. In the end, that's who I work for. And we have to figure out how to advertise for a reasonable budget and still deliver the kind of results for each of these adorable snowflakes each year. And it is a huge challenge. Occasionally, data or what I would say is people's behavior allows us to identify opportunities that are worth the risk. Where the timeline allows us to say, oh, someone interacted with a movie trailer 3 months out, we didn't have huge opportunity, believe that was a huge opportunity, and it kind of blows up. And we say, all right, well, maybe we can, based on that, we can take the risk of leaning into it, spending some more money on that title than we might have. And when we've done that, most of the time we've had success. And on occasion, if we have failed, because it happens very publicly, you try and take the risk in a way that the finances won't kill you. It's all, there is literally no certainty even with data in our business. There just isn't, because people are choosing based on what they feel.
Does data inform the product itself, the script? Would you-
It can't really. And to be honest, because those, films are an artistic vision of a small group of folks who want to get a movie made. We do look at whether or not it makes sense to make something for the price that it might cost, and sometimes we still take those risks, thankfully, because they often pay off. But really, when we're handed a product as marketers, we're handed a product to figure out how to optimize the outcome to the highest possible degree, hopefully over-delivering what our financial, masters expect.
Yeah, so it's again optimization, not
Yeah, and we're
inspiration.
optimizing the messaging, and keeping in mind, we're not creating the content we have for the most part is created out of the product. It's not a creative agency that is shooting new material. It's all, like, sometimes you're selling something where the material, what you want to be able to say isn't actually in the movie. And so you do your best. And our timelines are very short, which is another problem. Data, we don't have a lot of time to make a mistake. In the media space, we might be on, the various platforms 6 weeks at the long end.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Do you think that creatively, Suzanne, the data enables you to welcome risk more often or less often at the moment?
I think the right information looked at with the idea of a hypothesis of what it might mean, because you can never actually get to real attribution. I think it gives you another tool to make decisions. I mean, most of it, any studio making a movie, you're probably in production costs, and what your likely revenue coming back is, you could be in for $100 million, and you could be, when the movie opens, you could be done in 12 hours.
Wow.
So it gives us a tool to feel more confident,
Yeah.
but as I said, none of it's certain.
I mean, I think it's certainly true in the entertainment space, where again, you have 6 weeks to go from like zero to mass brand awareness.
Yes.
But I think if we sort of broaden the sort of scope a little bit here, what we see sometimes is marketers embracing the opportunity to have a hypothesis, develop a digital asset, and get it out quickly, and then see if it works, see what people do with it, and then figure out how to do more of that.
Yeah.
Or see if it doesn't work, and then stop doing that and do something else.
And we do a little of that.
Yeah.
Of the that's not working, perhaps.
Right, and I mean, you guys have a unique challenge in that you have such a brief window, because after that 6 weeks, after the first weekend, the diminishing return is so
Then it's
so
all about
precipitous.
people's word of mouth out there.
Right, but I think when you think about brands that do have to sustain for
Yeah.
longer, there's still a campaign-driven mindset that is part of what I think, again, the challenge that we face in this, especially on the digital side, as digital storytellers in this business, because those brands still have to sell after a campaign is over, right? I don't mean to keep using automotive examples, but like after the 12-week cycle of a vehicle launch, the car is still on dealer lots.
Yeah.
It's to
It's
move.
they still have to sell it, but they've spent all the money to promote it. And this is where I think, like you, Dimitri, I'm disappointed, or I shouldn't say disappointed, I should say we have a huge opportunity to really empower clients and agencies to fix this very fundamental problem in the business around this very campaign-driven mindset. Right? Programmatic solutions are very good at execution of those campaigns, but brands have to sustain for longer, good brands anyway, and there has to be a way to use that data to do that on a more ongoing, on a more always-on basis. Because whether you're talking about a car or at a high consideration, high-cost product, or a low consideration, low-cost product in like the CPG, FMCG space, that product is still on a shelf somewhere, and a user still has to decide what they're going to buy. And whether or not you are in market with a campaign doesn't impact the fact that you, as a marketer, have to continue to deliver sales results. So why are we still, we don't behave that way as users, but we spend money that way as marketers?
So how long term do you think we need to think?
I think it's like inevitable. Like there's not a stop and a start, right? Like it doesn't. unless you're going to actually stop selling a product or actually like not have a brand in existence anymore. Otherwise, why are you stopping? I would ask. Why do you stop talking about it? I'm not saying that you can always be yelling and screaming at people, and that because we don't want to be yelled and screamed at. But I am saying that like if you got stuff to sell, you got something to say, so say it.
Dimitri, what's the most exciting opportunity that's out there for the agencies and their clients today, and how can we take advantage of it?
I mean, I think we need to fix the inspiration problem, but we talked about that already. I think the area I'm very excited about is using data as an ingredient of the end product. So using actually data as part of the solution, as part of the experience, as part of the utility you create. And if you look around at the work this week, you see a lot more examples of where data is the actual product, where data is the ad, whether it's through visualization, whether it is through using data to develop utility. I saw this thing from our German office the other day where they developed a smart bowl for a dog because dogs apparently have obesity problems these days. Who knew? And so that's an example of data tracking of a dog's activity level turns into utility and turns into the end product. So I think that's exciting, and I think we're getting a lot better at that.
Okay, so one more question, and then we're done. I think we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. So Suzanne, if you could design a perfect future, what role would data play in improving your business, in creating innovation, in opening new opportunities for you?
In a minute. Okay. First off, I think that the opportunities for data are amazing. I think that the dream of it is great, and the reality just has to catch up. Attribution or some version of how we get to ads where we can then attribute to a sale is, I think, the gold standard. But I think having partnerships with our various both data partners and media vendors who are working under the auspices of data, whether it's YouTube or something, being able to really give us more granular information and because there's a lot of it, but that in formats we like, and being able to very specifically marry that to what we also do in TV. So, I mean, we do a lot of TV. So I look at what I call 2020 as can we get to a place where I have a fully integrated platform that tells me how I'm reaching people across all the platforms, and then continue to evolve from there till that, yellow brick road of attribution.
Brilliant.
Are we
Seth,
running down the line?
Future?
My perfect future is about like 30 minutes from now, and one of those shows.
Well, there's that.
No, I think the perfect future is where is one in which, again, we're using data continuously to understand impact and motivation, not just action.
Yeah.
Motivation's great.
Right? Like not just what are people doing, but why are they doing it, and why do they care about it?
Yeah.
Where humans still have a critical role to play as creatives, as storytellers, because that is a fundamentally human precept, at least for now. I hope it remains that way, and I think it will. And I think, in a future where, we get the stuff that we want, and where technology empowers us to get this, to actually not get the stuff we don't want. And by the way, that is really good for marketers. It's good for marketers, and it's good for platforms, and it's good for brands, and it's good for agencies. It's scary because it's such a different way. It's a total inversion of business the way it has been done. And again, we're in this middle part of this transformation now. But it's good for marketers because you're going to give people the right message and something that they care about. It's good for platforms because you're empowering that, and you're using technology to make those experiences more meaningful. It's good for agencies because they're more meaningful to their clients. And again, it's good for users because you get more of the stuff you want.
Brilliant. Time's up. There's a big sign over there that says time's up. Time's up. That really means time's up, so we're done. I would offer questions, but time's up. But I guess we'll be kind of milling around if anyone wants to have a chat with us afterwards. I have a view on all this stuff, but no one's asked me any questions. So if you want to ask me questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much, guys. Really interesting half hour. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.